terrible CGI in this movie. Jeez Louise. They'll know it. Welcome back, Wolfpack. Direwolf here from Dire Discusses. Along with me is my co-host and producer, Fox. How are you, buddy?
I am doing fantastic. I'm excited to discuss the craziness that we're about to discuss tonight.
Boy, do we have a lot to discuss.
Lots and lots.
And, you know, if we didn't do these Thursday shows, I'm starting to think that we wouldn't have enough time to, well, we could cover all the stories of the week, but we wouldn't sleep.
Sleep is for the weak.
Yes, exactly. So these Thursdays are kind of a release valve for getting some of the bigger stories out of the way that we then have more time for the other stories on the Saturdays. So I hope you guys are ready for this this wild ride that is the impeachment inquiries, because they're I find it funny calling them inquiries, like the impeachment question, not hearings. Also, for those who get the reference, I decided to put the mayonnaise on the outside of the bread today on the sandwich. So I'm good to go.
I am the mayonnaise, I guess.
Gross.
You're the one who put it on the outside of the
explain.
sandwich. As long as you didn't think about me. Anyways, the impeachment hearings. And the
impeachment hearings.
The reason that there is a question mark behind that is because there actually has not been a formal impeachment inquiry vote yet. So nobody's really sure what it is. The Democrats want to pretend like it's something, but they didn't vote on it, so it's not really anything yet. But there's a lot going on, so we'll go through that today. A little bit of history on impeachment. There have been 2 impeachments so far in all of U.S. history. One was Andrew Jackson in 1869 and Bill Clinton in 1998. Richard Nixon actually resigned in 1974 when it was clear that impeachment was coming. And I believe he was impeached in the House, but not the Senate, if I remember. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then in both cases, the process was bipartisan. Both political parties called their witness.
All you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
I don't know what that says. It is I want to her tail and have my get all stuck in her tail. Ooh, my God.
I think, can we summarize? Is that okay by you, Slowpoke? Can we just summarize what you were saying? He really wants to have sex with that character, and yeah, that's it.
Which one?
That little cat character he uses as an avatar. It actually comes from a game. Neko.
I don't think I needed to know that.
Well,
anyways, thank you very much for the $2. If you would like to make Dyer and I uncomfortable, you can go to Streamlabs. You can find a link in the description down below, whether you are on YouTube or DLive, or I'm assuming Twitch probably as well.
Yes. Twitch.
Yeah, you can go over there to Streamlabs, and for $2 or more, you can put up some kind of crazy thing on screen, and if you want it to be said aloud without Dyer and I getting grossed out and not really having a choice, you can pay $10 and it'll just automatically read it, which is really dangerous. Whose idea was it to set that up?
It was made a long time ago. Probably was a poor choice.
Yeah, our poor choices are potentially your fair game too.
And apparently, no matter how much you send over $2, you get Greta to yell at us and shame us for our dreams.
How dare you? You have stolen her childhood.
Oh,
it's like Schiff is stealing Trump's childhood. Anyways, back to impeachment. Very, very sexy topic here. Also sexy as Slowpoke's comment. Anyways, in both cases, the 2 impeachment inquiries, or 2 actual impeachments, and then also the sort of impeachment of Nixon, they were all bipartisan in nature. Both political parties were kind of together in calling witnesses, cross-examining witnesses, and the hearings were all done publicly. Although to call something publicly in 1869 is maybe not quite how, or even in the 90s, publicly is not quite what it means today with the 24/7 news cycle and social media and all that stuff.
True.
I'm assuming that the 1869 wasn't like up to the minute updates.
It was open to the press.
Yes.
Which is as public as you could get back then.
Yes.
So, in contrast, the Trump impeachment inquiries are being held in 3 committees, very small groups, made up of both Democrats and Republicans, but members of the Congress not in those committees are not given access to the sensitive documents or interviews related to the probes. The Republicans also do not have co-equal power to subpoena witnesses or pursue evidence in the probe. That means they can't subpoena information as well, have documents provided to the committees. If selected GOP members that do have a very small number of people in the GOP are given access to the transcripts, but when they are looking at the transcripts, they have to look at it in the briefing rooms, the SCIFs, as if they are classified information, and they can only do so when there's a Democrat staffer there to make sure they don't take any information out. Which means basically they're not treating the Republicans fairly, not giving them same power to investigate, call witnesses, and bring in data to then have their side of the investigation. Also, Trump's lawyer is not being allowed to, or Trump's legal team is not being allowed to face his accuser either.
Another huge difference is that the Democrats, led by Adam Schiff, why is that guy still in Congress? They are conducting the hearings in search of a crime rather than looking for evidence of an actual crime that they already know about. Both the Nixon and Clinton impeachments had already been found guilty of crimes based on independent investigations, not dissimilar to the sort of independent in name only Mueller investigation. Independent counsel Ken Starr found that Clinton had committed 12 felonies, which is approximately the same amount that Hillary commits every morning. Impeachment hearings were the response to the crimes having been found committed, whereas now the impeachment hearings are in response to Mueller having found no crimes being committed.
It's a pretty stark difference.
Yeah, it's just a little teeny tiny difference. It's just a small one.
In Trump's case, the independent counsel, Bob Mueller, did not find that Trump had committed any high crimes or misdemeanors. Mueller's investigation also fell apart when he was cross-examined in public hearings. Notably, he was unfamiliar with key details of what his report said, or even who the major players were, like Fusion GPS. When Trump was accused by the whistleblower of a quid pro quo, Trump released the transcript of the phone call showing that the whistleblower was wrong, and that again he had not committed any crimes. Nancy Pelosi began the impeachment inquiries based on the whistleblower's statements without any evidence of a crime.
We have to start the impeachment inquiry before we find out what it's about.
Yeah. Start the investigation of a crime without evidence of a crime. Even the whistleblower's statement is an accusation, not evidence. And even his accusation was hearsay. It was him saying what he was told by someone else.
And that someone was more than likely Mr. Schiff, because yes, that was shown multiple times now that Schiff was in collusion with the quote unquote whistleblower for the weeks before he ever came out and said anything.
And keep in mind that Adam Schiff was also the origin for much of the Trump dossier leaks, and he kept saying throughout since day one of Trump getting elected that he had solid, irrefutable evidence that Trump did do all the things in that dossier and worse, that he was colluding with the Russians. He said he had all this evidence just to later on, when the Mueller report came out and showed that evidence did not exist, he's like, no big deal, I lied about it, Okay, so I was wrong. No, you're not just wrong. You said you had this evidence and it wasn't true. That's not you being wrong. That is you lying to the American people and sowing discord and trying to ruin Trump's presidency, trying to unseat a lawfully elected president. Yeah, that's lies, not my mistake. So shortly after they started the impeachment inquiries based on the statement from the whistleblower, no evidence. Shortly after, if the evidence was provided, that proving number. So the transcripts for the calls was released by Trump again, and that showed that everything that was in the whistleblower report was wrong, did not exist.
Rip.
Yeah. So now, after that they started on the whistleblower's statements, and then the whistleblower statements were proven to be false. So now they have this impeachment inquiry based on literally nothing.
No, it's based on that they wanted to do it, Dyer. They just wanted to. They gotta do
right.
it.
And you can't say, oh, it's because he committed these crimes. No, the impeachment, the willingness and the urge to impeach him happened on day one of his presidency, even before he was elected. Sorry, not actually after he's elected, but before he's actually inaugurated. They were already talking about impeachment. They've just been searching for something they could use to impeach Trump. They didn't start off with a crime. They're looking for a crime.
Yeah, and that's really what it's been since the beginning, was not a inquiry into impeachment, but rather just a investigation, a fishing expedition in search of a crime. Any crime will do, even if he jaywalked one time or got a bad parking ticket. That anything at this point. But cowardly Adam Schiff, who has been shown to have colluded with the whistleblower weeks before it happened, as I just said, learned of the disaster of a failure that the Mueller hearings were, and instead of holding the impeachment hearings publicly in the same way that the Mueller hearing was, and getting embarrassed and showing the American people that there's literally no there. I know it gets overused, but it's true. He decided that he'd rather have them be classified briefings so that we couldn't see what was actually happening, and then the only insight into the goings on is whatever he decides to leak, which is, obviously trying to spin a narrative there. And it's interesting that they chose to make these classified briefings because the content being discussed is not classified. And even if parts of it were, it is not unprecedented to have the majority of the hearing in a public setting discussing the public topics and then saving and reserving the classified topics for a classified setting. That has happened multiple times, even during the Mueller investigation and hearings. And so there's no reason to classify to pseudo-classify the entire thing. And he's doing this so he can hide all the testimony that provides evidence of absolving Trump. He has only released leaked select statements out of context with none of the cross-examination follow-up from the Republicans. And we've seen that multiple times now. There's, I think it was yesterday, there was the big bombshell of one of the I think it was the new Ukrainian ambassador, I believe. There was a leak from the Democrat side that he gave up the goose. He told on Trump, and it was the end of everything. Trump was getting impeached, and then one of the Republicans came out and was like, actually, no.
Yeah. So what they did with the Mueller investigation is they had two parts to the inquiry, right, or the hearing. They had the first part in front of everybody, and it was the non-classified. And any question that was classified or had a classified answer unintentionally was left for the later portion. But all the stuff that wasn't classified that was able to be addressed openly, and then the transcripts for stuff that was anything that was could be released from the secret side was still provided, right? So that's full transparency of the hearing compared to what they're doing now. Is what Adam Schiff is doing is illegal, by the way. He took so there's like 14 pages of transcript from that person you were talking about, the new Ukrainian ambassador, and he released just a portion of the first page, which that's crime, him leaking that information. That if he's treating it as being classified and saying that no one else can release any of this, and we're going to put it under armed guard so you can't release it, but then he releases it. Either it is classified and he broke the law, or it's not classified and he's keeping this information that should not be classified from the American people. Either way, he's wrong. And then what turns out is when he released the opening statement, it said that it may have sounded like Trump had done a quid pro quo, but just when he went up against according to the Republicans, because we can't know because the information wasn't released, but according to the Republicans, that his statement fell apart under cross-examination. What they found out was he had heard that information 4 times removed from him.
Very,
4 times.
Very, very current information.
He's
very
almost a
up-to-date.
Kevin Bacon. You know?
Well, statistically, Kevin Bacon would have been a better. He probably would have been less removed statistically. I mean, guy, me and you probably have as many degrees of separation as he does. I want to know, like, who out there pulled the lever for Schiff? Like, somebody ought to go find somebody who voted for him and be like, do you have any idea who this person is? Like, have you ever seen him, or like, did you just, I don't know, just write down the ballot?
He's got a D next to his name. He's in California. What can you do?
That makes sense. Yeah, he probably offered him free bread to go vote for him.
Possibly. I actually think his seat's in danger. We'll get into that later. We got a little bit I added to the end of the notes.
His seat's in danger because California is either going to spontaneously combust, fall into the ocean, and or a combination of both.
So Canyon Valley in California is on fire right now. So either could happen. So here's a letter from the ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, McCall. McCall wrote an open letter describing what was happening. You said, Mr. Chairman, to date, your Ukrainian joint investigation has operated almost exclusively within the jurisdiction of the Committee of Foreign Affairs. So I was shocked to be informed yesterday that you will not be providing disposition and interview transcripts from this supposed joint inquiry to the Foreign Affairs Committee. Wait, what? So his joint investigation is under the Foreign Affairs Committee, but he's not providing the transcripts to that committee that has jurisdiction over those hearings. Interesting. That makes no sense at all. Your staff claims that the only way we will have access to the transcripts is in your offices during designated hours under the personal supervision and monitoring of a majority staffer. Wow.
I think to clear up what you were confused on, so Schiff, I believe, is the Intelligence Committee, and I believe that to get access to ambassadors, he has to do it under the guise of mixing it with the Foreign Affairs Committee because it's a foreign affair. And so I think that's where the issue's at. So am I wrong on that? I'm right. Schiff's the
No, you're right. I'm just saying,
okay.
if he's doing it, if he's doing it under their jurisdiction, then those documents should automatically be available to them.
Yeah,
and that is confusing. How I'm trying. What I was confused by wasn't what was written, but was by the logic that could lead to him saying that they can't have them. Why would they automatically?
There is no logic. It's just they're just making up the rules at this point. That's he needed to have both committees so he had access to the quote unquote not witnesses, and then he also needed to have the committees mixed so he could have access to those witnesses, and then he also didn't want the other committee to be looking at it, especially not the ranking member, which would mean the Republicans. He doesn't want the Republicans from the Foreign Affairs Committee looking at that, which is suspect.
Right. It sounds like, I know this is kind of simplifying it, but so
sounds like he's trying to hide it.
yeah. But it'd be like this. Say, my unit, we're technicians, right? And then we have another unit that is the Intel guys, the guys that program the radios, put the crypto on the radios. They say they got to come to our unit and use our computers to load radios, right? And then after they do that, they're like, the stuff we did on your computers, you can't use it. You can't have it. But it's our stuff you used in the first place. You can't tell us we can't have our own stuff.
I think it's kind of like if Alpha B wanted to borrow your credit card and you're like, what do you need it for? She's like, well, I need access to the joint account. And you're like, well, what do you want to buy with it? She's like, I can't tell you. That's basically what is going on here. Schiff is using the joint account and is not telling his spouse what it is that he's buying.
Okay, let's go on with the rest of the letter. It is outrageous and unjustified to deny us those basic documents, which are critical to our ability to meaningfully prepare for and participate in the investigation. We require the same access to the same documents in the same format as is enjoyed by you and your staff. It's their documents. He's just using them. Foreign Affairs is an intelligence receiving committee with a sensitive compartmented information facility, SCIF, a classified computer system, and full-time non-partisan security officer. There is no legitimate reason to deny us the transcripts. I urge you to remedy this procedural injustice immediately so that I am not forced to pursue public efforts to correct it, including by seeking a privileged vote on the House floor. Sincerely, that guy.
Michael
T. McCall.
So that was sent 2 days ago. That was on Tuesday that he sent that letter. And we will get into shortly what happened on Wednesday. It was a slightly more than a letter escalation.
Yes.
And so the GOP, they've been following the rules to the extent that the rules are knowable. Obviously the Democrats are just making up as they go at this point. And they have complained very little except for this strongly worded letter up until yesterday. And the Democrats have been able to just really kind of run the gambit of leaking whatever it is that they want to say. There's not any good way for the Republicans to come back and counter that misinformation. And the Democrats are just framing it, obviously, in the absolute worst way for Trump. And the media is eating that all up. And all of that is trying to build support for impeachment while the GOP is kind of stuck in the water. And then they're not even really allowed to talk aloud or report to the media what's said in the briefings because they're not Democrats. Only Democrats are allowed to leak. I think that's in the rules. And they aren't allowed to say what's been said in the briefings, and they are not able to leak the transcripts because, again, they are not Democrats. Only Democrats can leak. It's okay when they do it.
The Republicans are trying to follow the rules and be, morally right. But at the same time, the Democrats are not holding themselves to that standard, and yet no one's calling them out. It doesn't seem like very many people are calling them out and holding them to account, and mostly because I don't think their voters care. I don't think the Democrat base are going to be upset with them leaking this information.
I'm just convinced that there are no voters. I don't know how we get here if people are actually voting for this.
Because we're tribalists. It's, that's our team, and what they're doing is helping our team, so it doesn't matter. If the rules hurt the other team, that's good. It's really that's stupid. That's really what it is.
Yes. Yeah.
So yesterday, right?
Yes.
The GOP decided to fight back. Around 50 GOP members of the House held a press conference about impeachment transparency outside the SCIF where the Democrats were holding the hearings. They then all forced their way in to disrupt the hearings. Some of the GOP members challenged the Capitol police officers to arrest them, and one member reportedly yelled at Adam Schiff's face, which must have felt great. He deserves it. Before he and the witness left the room. I want to point out that it just delayed the hearings for a few hours, and as soon as the GOP members left, Schiff came back in with his witness and continued to do the hearing without anyone being able to hold him accountable. So just for a little bit of context, here is the video of the press conference, some of the highlights of what was going on yesterday.
I'm gathered here with dozens of my congressional colleagues underground in the basement of the Capitol, because if behind those doors they intend to overturn the results of an American presidential election, we want to know what's going on. And it's only reasonable that we would have questions, because so far, Adam Schiff's impeachment inquiry has been marked by secret interviews, selective leaks, weird theatrical performances of transcripts that never happened, and lies about contacts with a whistleblower. And so I'm going to have a few of my colleagues give remarks, and then we're going to try to go in there and we're going to try to figure out what's going on behalf of the millions of Americans that we represent that want to see this Congress working for them and not obsessed with attacking a president who we believe has not done anything to deserve impeachment.
What is Adam Schiff trying to hide? Is through those hidden closed doors over there, Adam Schiff is trying to impeach a president of the United States behind closed doors, literally trying to overturn the results of the 2016 election a year before Americans get to go to the polls to decide who's going to be the president. And frankly, it should be the people of this country who decide who's going to be the president, not Nancy Pelosi and not Adam Schiff in secret behind closed doors. The fact that Adam Schiff won't even let the press in, you can't even go in and see what's going on in that room. Voting members of Congress are being denied access from being able to see what's happening behind these closed doors, where they're trying to impeach the President of the United States with a one-sided set of rules. They call the witnesses. They don't let anybody else call the witnesses. They don't even let the President's legal counsel question people who are making baseless allegations. Maybe in the Soviet Union, this kind of thing is commonplace. This shouldn't be happening in the United States of America, where they're trying to impeach a president in secret behind closed doors. The American people deserve better. We will demand better for the American people.
House Democrats are bypassing constitutional norms and basic standards of due process with their impeachment obsession. It has been said, but bears repeating. The president is not above justice, but as you know, neither is he below it. Facing your accusers, the ability to call rebuttal witnesses, cross-examination, the right to object ever.
Oops. A bit of a buffering issue here. You want to say anything about the?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll just pause real quick.
Hearings.
Little pause.
So one thing that the Democrats have said, and by Democrats I mean like CNN and the news media, but they've said repeatedly that the Republicans' response to impeachment inquiries was just to attack the process instead of to actually defend the president. And the thing is, it is the process being corrupt that's preventing the Republicans from being able to actually argue any kind of case or to interrogate witnesses or bring in evidence. So the process is the problem, because there is no fair investigation into whether or not Trump actually committed a crime or defending against accusations that are baseless unless you first fix the unlawful, I would say, and definitely unfair process. So yes, criticizing the process and how only a small number of mostly Democrats are actually being able to call witnesses and actually run an investigation on the claims being made. That's a problem, and that's preventing them from actually doing a real investigation. And this is still not an actual impeachment hearing until there's actually a vote on it. And we can't have impeachment hearings based on, what is it, like 12 people in a hearing out of hundreds of people in the House. Jeez.
Yeah. Out of some guy they found on the street, basically.
Yeah.
All right.
What, Adam Schiff?
Yes.
Okay, go on.
I think you found him on Skid Row. I do like that YouTube is recommending our own live stream to us as a related video.
That's nice.
Depositions and interviews. These are basic standards that every American should expect, including the President of the United States, who is currently being the target of an angry mob, a willing media machine, and a twisted version of an impeachment process that didn't begin 2 months ago, that began day one of this administration. It is a sham, and it's time for it to end.
You should be outraged if you're an American at what's happening here. You should be allowed to confront your accusers. This is being held behind closed doors for a reason, because they don't want you to see what the witnesses are like. Let me give you an example. Recently we had the Mueller. Mr. Mueller came in to give a report in Judiciary. You were there. You saw it. The American people saw it. You know why Mr. Mueller's report fell apart and why we knew that there was nothing there?
because we got to observe Mr. Mueller himself testify. Because when he was asked questions, you could see he didn't understand what had happened in his own investigation. You saw him flipping through pages. You get to see who is accusing you. When you're denied that, you might as well be living in the former Soviet Union. This is a Soviet-style impeachment process. This is closed doors. It is unfair in every way. And I don't care whether you are the President of the United States or any other citizens of this country. You should be allowed to confront your witnesses. Absent that, you get nothing but tyranny. And that's what's going on with Mr. Schiff. We're going to go in there today and demand we get our rights as members of Congress.
What is happening behind closed doors is unclassified. There's no reason why the American public shouldn't be able to watch this in real time live. This is a process lacking legitimacy, credibility, and fairness. And we have a huge problem with that. One fun fact from yesterday. I saw that the opening statement leaked. This is what happens. This is the Democrats' strategy. They like to cherry pick leaks. Turn to page 12. The only reference to Joe Biden, other than one reference to the July 25th transcript. In that one reference, it's not firsthand from Ambassador Taylor. It's not secondhand from Ambassador Taylor. It's not thirdhand from Ambassador Taylor. Y'all making a big deal of Ambassador Taylor telling him that Tim Morrison told him, that Sondland told Morrison, that the president told Sondland, that the president told Zelensky. Give me a break. On the process and the substance, this whole thing has been a joke.
Why don't we know who the person is who started this whole charade that Adam Schiff is now doing in the bunker of the basement of the Capitol? If you look at the whistleblower's complaint, page 1 of the complaint, he talks about more than half a dozen individuals who form the basis of his complaint. We have no idea who these folks are. As I said last night on the floor of the House, 435 members of the House representing over 300 million Americans, and the only one of those 435 who know the individuals who started this whole thing, the only one is Adam Schiff. Why don't the rest of us know? More importantly, why don't the American people know? I think the American people, as I said before, they understand fairness, and they instinctively know that what is happening here is not fair. And that's why I want to applaud my colleagues, Whip Scalise and Matt Gaetz and the rest of the team here for standing up and saying, look, it's time that we know who started this whole thing. The more than half a dozen folks he referenced and said over the past 4 months, more than half a dozen people have informed me about this complaint that he filed. Who are those people? We've had 7 witnesses to date. I don't think any of them have been the ones that the whistleblower, the so-called whistleblower, was referring to. So we need to hear from them, and we need this done in the open so the American people can see. Thank you.
All right.
A lot of information there, but a lot of it we already covered.
Yeah.
So in any case, the process is very corrupt, and it needs to be dealt with. And there is no way. So if you have an impeachment hearing, or impeachment in general, if they do an impeachment on Trump in the House, but they did not have a fair process, and they don't allow both parties to be involved, don't allow for bipartisan agreement on the facts, right? Because right now what they're doing is they're gathering facts that no one will agree on because of the lack of transparency. So what you're going to do is no one's going to agree on the outcome, and you'll create a dangerous, divisive culture where no matter what happens, the other side is going to believe that it's a coup.
Yes. And one of the issues with the process here is, so from what I can understand of the way Congress works, to the extent that anybody can understand how Congress works, it doesn't. But basically, if they had launched a formal impeachment inquiry with a vote, they would have, during that vote, laid out ground rules for how the process would be conducted. But since there is no formal inquiry and there are no special rules for how it's conducted, i.e., presumably the default House rules are still in play. But Schiff obviously seems to be operating under his own set of rules that were not really approved by anybody except for him and probably the voices in his head. And he's just kind of making them up as he goes. So Solid Snake Dan Crenshaw was going through what some of those standing House rules are. We'll take a look at what he had to say and what he figured out.
Hey, everybody. So Chairman Adam Schiff says that non-committee members can't have access to all the hearings and depositions that have been happening with respect to the impeachment inquiry. Is that true? Just so happens I have a House rules and manual right here in front of me. So let's check the House rules. Right there. That's interesting. Read that. It says such records shall be the property of the House and each member, meaning we can actually go look at them. So let's go down to where they keep these records and see if they'll give us access so that we can inform you, the American people, what's really going on with this impeachment inquiry. So we're going down, we're in the House Visitor Center right now. We're going downstairs where they actually keep a lot of the classified documents. Bit of a circus here recently. You can see there's a lot of cameras, a lot of press on the subject. They won't let me see it. Big surprise. Say non-committee members can't review any of these transcripts, any of these depositions that have been happening over this last week. And they say only committee members can see it, but the truth is I've spoken to some committee members, and they've been sending letters requesting to see it as well, to get an appointment to see it, as they've been told that the rules would allow them, and they've been told no also. So what is the process here? Where is the transparency? There's none. And that should frustrate all Americans.
Yeah, so basically, like I said, if there was a actual formal vote, then they could have declared the rules be that only committee members can see this stuff while they are doing it. But since they didn't declare any special rules, then the normal House rules apply. And that's what Mr. Crenshaw was just showing everybody. And even those aren't applying. And then furthermore, the special rules that Schiff is just making up that are not approved by anybody, he's not even following those. The special rules that he made up were that only committee members get to see them, but he's not even allowing that to go through. So
yeah. So thank you, Tetris Freak, for the lemon. Yeah, that's the point. He created the extra process of having them get approved by, basically through him. He's now the arbiter of who's allowed to have the public records, right? So because he put the extra step in, he can now deny people without denying them, right? So without saying he's denying them. Oh yeah, you can definitely get the papers you need. You just gotta work it out with our schedule so I can have one of my staff members be there. But then every single time you might schedule is never a good time. So basically the answer is no. But he's not saying no, and that way he has a innocent circumstance. I think is the phrase when you say, "Oh no, I'm doing the right thing. I'm innocent." Well, at the same time, it's just a ruse.
It's an elaborate ruse.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Where are we at?
Yeah. I was going to. Yeah. So for a little context on what the rest of the media has been saying, obviously we just got to see some of the more of the primary sources, but how is the rest of the fake stream media reporting this? We got from the New York Times headline: Republicans fight Trump's impeachment by attacking the process. Washington Post: Republicans storm closed-door impeachment hearing. MSNBC: Haley Jackson presses Matt Gaetz: why do you think the rules don't apply to you? You're above the rules, because there are no rules, that's why. Vox: House Republicans' impeachment stunt is an attempt to distract from the allegations against Trump. How dare they?
No, they want to address the allegations. They can't because they're treating the information as the allegations themselves as being classified, and yet they leak the parts that they think will make them look good.
And we got Huffington Post: why is the GOP spin growing more pathetic and lawless? Probably because Trump's defenses are collapsing. Salon: do Republicans think their voters are complete idiots? Their Trump defenses sure look that way. Man, that's a hell of a headline. And then we got CNN bringing up the back of the short bus here. Republicans protesting an impeachment hearing are snacking on Cheez-It crackers.
Thank you, CNN. That's helpful. Definitely hard-hitting news there.
Yeah. I could not believe that I saw that headline. I had to take a screenshot of it immediately. I was like, what?
That's not even the first article today. I've seen two articles now today that made me think that CNN had published articles that are indistinguishable from The Onion.
For real, yeah, that's 100% an Onion article. Is Jesus Christ.
Jeez Louise.
Man.
But yeah, again, a lot of the articles are trying to say that the Republicans are being unlawful by, well, it's not them that are being unlawful. It is definitely Adam Schiff and the Democrats who are not following the rules of the House. They're the ones being unlawful, and the Republicans are protesting the unjust rules that are being applied, the unconstitutional rules. And definitely they're not being given the same benefits that the Republicans had gave the Democrats during the previous impeachments.
Yeah, and for that context on the Constitution part, I think that's important to run back over. I don't have the exact wording pulled up, but the Constitution, the way that it outlines the House, is it basically says that they will be governed by a set of rules that they will make themselves at the beginning of each session. And so that is what Dan Crenshaw was reading out, was the book of rules that the House had agreed upon at the beginning of their session. And the rules that Schiff is operating under were not approved at the beginning of the session. They were just made up. So, yes, Schiff making up his own rules as he goes along that were not voted on and agreed upon by the House, that is unconstitutional. It is, specifically unconstitutional.
The problem here is painfully obvious for anyone just looking at what's going on and having a cursory knowledge of how Congress works. It's painfully obvious that what they're doing is dishonest and it's corrupt and unlawful. And yet they're doing it with no fear that it's going to affect them at the voting booth, because the vast majority of Americans aren't looking at it in detail to what's going on in Congress. What they are doing is seeing the headlines, and they're believing just the headlines. And Adam Schiff's whole program here is designed to prevent the Republicans from being able to counteract or any evidence they find, and then to, even if all of their witnesses, which as so far all of the witnesses have actually have absolved Trump of the allegations so far. All of them, when faced with cross-examination, their stories supported Trump's innocence rather than guilt. But they will continue to release parts out of context to keep building the case for why Trump is guilty in the media, and to create a constant stream of stories. And the goal of that is to build public support for impeachment.
And
they're
you can't do this without a complicit media. If you had a media that was truly not partisan, that was truly neutral, that was curious as to what was going on, had any curiosity at all, and wasn't looking to just also Orange Man bad, they would not be able to get away with this. That is the only reason why they're able to do this, is because of the media. And then the thing is, the media was meant to prevent that. That was the whole point of the First Amendment, was that the media needed to be free to report on the truth, even if the government didn't like that truth. And instead of doing that, instead of defending the democracy, the whole reason why they got the First Amendment in the first place, it wasn't for them. It wasn't just because the founding fathers liked the media. It was because they wanted the media to hold this thing that they were very scared of that they created. They wanted the media to hold it accountable. And here we are. The media is they got the pitchforks too. They're in line to take it all down.
So the goal of these impeachment inquiries are not to actually result in impeachment, because they know if they pass it in the House, it's not going to be they're not going to find Trump guilty in the Senate, the Republican-led Senate. The goal is to simply build support for impeachment and lower Trump's approval rating. Now, they're hoping that strategy will harm Trump enough that one of their many terrible unlikable candidates with terrible policies will maybe be able to beat Trump if they can tear him down with constant drip negative news about false illegal things they're saying he's done and without actually providing the public real evidence or real ability to actually litigate those claims. So it's not about impeachment. It's all about trying to harm Trump so he won't get reelected.
Which is disgusting.
It is. And that they have so much power in the media. The media has so much power to sway people's votes. And it's really hard. Trump's had been fighting an uphill battle since he ran the first time against a media that has so much ability to destroy a person. And it's amazing he won the first time. Even swimming, against the current, he still managed to win the first time. I think that people, this strategy is helping to, embolden, support for impeachment. I still think it's pissing off way more people.
Well, here's the thing: is
to actually vote.
Yeah, there's a lot of, as much as they are doing, which we just spent a bunch of time talking about what they are doing. There's a whole list of things that they are not doing. So
yes,
if they were to just let this be for 12 months, it will be either over or the American people will decide that they don't care and they still want Trump. And they don't want the American people to be able to decide that in 12 months because they know what they'll decide. So they want to make that decision for us. But what they're also not doing is there's a whole slate of bills that have just been sitting on the table the last 2 weeks that have not been getting voted on because all of Congress is tied up in whatever the hell this thing is or waiting to find out whatever the hell this thing is. And nobody's voting on anything. They've got, I believe there was an appropriations bill for military funding that's been sitting out. There was something for the VA that was sitting out. There's a whole bunch of bills that are just sitting there not getting voted on. And, gee golly whiz, silly me, I must have thought that, we sent Congress people to Congress to vote on legislation and pass bills, but I guess I was wrong about that. It might be nice if the Democrats were to get on board with that. It's really interesting. It'll be interesting to see what all of their campaign ads are going to be. I can't wait for the supercut of all of their campaign ads just being, what did I do the last 4 years? It was impeach Trump and passed no bills. I proposed no legislation. I voted on no legislation, but I tried to impeach Trump.
Yep. So that's absolutely true. They've done jack shit. They've just focused on trying to get rid of Trump, and because of that, they haven't achieved anything. But you know what? Even though the polls are showing that there's a growing support for impeachment, there's also polls showing that impeachment is far lower a priority than improving the economy and health care and which includes the VA. There's a lot of things that people care about more than impeachment that aren't happening. So someone saying that they're okay with impeachment hearings doesn't even mean that they actually want Trump impeached. They're like, oh yeah, you want to investigate a crime? Sure, investigate a crime. But it doesn't mean that thing that they're saying they support outweighs all other things. They're still going to remember that you did nothing during your entire, 4 years.
It'll be interesting to see how this is remembered. I know there was. I was gonna look it up and I forgot to do it. There was somebody. I think it was either a CNN pundit or one of the Congress people. I can't remember who it was, but they had this really ridiculous interview this morning, basically saying that all the Republicans that stormed the doors, it was like a big fleet of white men, and they probably can't get it up. It looked like a Viagra conference, and they probably never have sex with their wives, and it was just what the hell kind of interview is this? Oh, they were talking about that's what they're going to remember is that all these white men can't get it up, and that's why they were at the doors.
That was really racist. Jeez Louise.
Yes, it was. There was a lot of discussion about white. But that Wednesday was a lot of white stuff going on with the Dems because which we'll be talking about on Saturday. I watched oh my god, it was awful. I watched the entire Zuckerberg Libra hearing for almost 7 hours, And the Democrats just kept talking about white people and how many white people work at Facebook and how that's a problem for some reason. And Zuckerberg did not know how to respond to that. But the exact same time that was happening, we had we had this impeachment thing going on, and then the Democrats are still talking about how many white people there are and why that's a problem, I guess. I'm
disappointed that Zuckerberg didn't respond to that. I know I'm not surprised, but I'm disappointed because he thinks like them, right? But okay, if someone says that not proportional number of black people are on your social media site, his response should be, "That's not my fault nor my problem. I don't force people to join my website. They join it because they want to use the service. No one's denied. We don't track people by their race, and no one is approved or denied by their race. If they don't want to use my service, you want to use my service. That's not my problem." That's the only reasonable answer to what she said. Also, you could throw in, "You're fucking retarded for asking me that question," but I'm guessing he wouldn't say that.
The person that was way better than AOC's, which I'm sure a lot of people have seen the clip of AOC questioning Zuckerberg, was that I forget what his name is, but that congressman that thought that Guam was going to capsize, he asked a question, and oh my god, we'll definitely play that on Saturday, but he was just off the charts. Like, I don't understand why there's not more black people on your boards. And Zuckerberg's like, I don't understand what you're talking about. I don't understand the question. But yeah, that's kind of been the constant theme with the Democrats is, it's really weird, right? So they have this very, very much this fixation with race, which is a lot of their issue with Trump is they've got this fixation on race about, I guess, the race that Trump is, which I think his race is orange. But they're continuously fixated on this, always bringing it up, and it doesn't have the context to what it is that they're talking about. So you've got the Democrats talking about all these white Republicans coming down to the impeachment inquiry. I'm pretty much guaranteed that maybe we'll look up who's on the Intelligence Committee, but I'm guessing that a lot of them are also white, and I know Schiff's also white. And I don't really know what that has to do with the validity of wanting the Constitution to be followed and wanting transparency.
I want to talk a little about Adam Schiff because I think his history is also a little important here because it kind of shows about why he's doing what he's doing now. So his career actually was based on impeachment, and it was bolstered by impeachment in the very beginning. He unseated Republican House member Jim Randall, Republican, after Randall had supported Clinton's impeachment. He ran on a platform of being opposed to impeachment. He was then opposed to impeachment of someone who was found guilty of 12 felonies, and he rose to office. He built his career upon being opposed to the divisive nature of impeaching Clinton for actual crimes. And now look at him today. He is now leading a way, like, not even similar impeachment process, where with Clinton, as we covered, it was fair, it was open, it was transparent, and both political parties were given equal ability to subpoena both people and information. So he's continuing to build his career by being the centerpiece in the Democrats' plan to destroy Trump, and he's using that to bolster his career. But he's now doing it on the opposite side of the argument.
I don't know. I think I might disagree with that. I don't think he's building his career. I think he's destroying his career.
No. He might not be building it with his voters. So he might get voted out because of what he's doing. But he has now built so much social capital with all of Washington. He's set for life.
I want to know how many. Somebody should tabulate how much money was made off of this with book deals.
Probably a lot. So another thing is he also used to be a U.S. attorney in California, where he had a lot of experience of doing grand juries, and that's interesting only because he's running his impeachment inquiries. I'm saying they're his because he's the one running the whole process, um, just like a grand jury, without a crime.
Do you think? What do you think Nancy thinks of this? Like, do you think Nancy's like, yeah, Schiff's like a good, smart guy. Like, I trust him to like take this thing home. Like, do you think she like actually thinks he's like good at this? Like, like I wonder what she thinks of this.
I think that she supports it because I also don't have a very high opinion of her intelligence. But she was smart enough to say that impeachment was a bad idea because doing impeachment without anything to base it on is likely to get lots of Democrats to lose their seats. Hey, look, that's what they're doing right now. However, she was kind of forced into it by the progressive wing, the squad. So I think that she probably thinks that Adam Schiff's the best guy in the circumstance she's already stuck in to do it.
I guess when you're a Democrat in Congress, your options for all-star players are limited. Like when Schiff is your ace in the hole, that's man, it's a rough day. I kind of feel bad for her.
Yeah. I almost feel bad for her, but then I realize she's basically pure evil.
She's a bitch. What do you think's next? What do you think's next week?
So I think there's going to be a continued slow leak of information out of context, as there has been so far, and I think it's honestly going to stretch out to the election. I think that it doesn't even matter if they impeach him in the House, right? I think that putting their members to a vote is actually going to be worse for them and getting reelected. However, Nancy Pelosi did say they were going to do it in like 6 weeks from now. So I could be wrong, but I think it's more valuable to them to stretch it out and constantly have that negative news. Because the other theory, though, is that if they do impeach him in the House, then they can use, when the Senate doesn't impeach him, use that to attack Republicans, saying that they are also corrupt and being used by the Russians.
Yes, those dirty Russians.
Yes.
Do you think we're going to see at some point a challenge either from the Republicans or from the Democrats, either trying to gain entry or bar entry that utilizes Capitol Police in some way and physical force, physical coercion?
No, I don't think the Capitol Police are going to go against the Capitol Police because the same people who are guarding that information are also the Capitol Police. I think what they're going to do is I think that they will get the information probably eventually through administrative means or legal means. They can probably file a lawsuit. DOJ probably can do something along those lines. That if Congress is breaking the law, they're breaking the law, right?
Yeah.
So you can do it through court orders without actually requiring force. 'Cause I think sending police in.
But you know who owns the DC courts? It's not really.
I think that's probably the nonviolent process that would be best for our democracy.
Well, obviously it'd be best, but I was asking.
But it's not the process that freaking Kamala Harris and them would, not Kamala Harris. I mean what's her name? Rashida Tlaib. Thank you. That's not what she would do. She's talking about sending the Capitol Police in to arrest Republicans for smaller things. So
I do sincerely doubt that she's part of the A-team conversations. I don't feel like Nancy's calling her up and being like, "Hey, Rashida, what do you think?" I don't think anybody's really asking her what she thinks.
I think we might call her up if we ever had a question about eating glue.
Or
desperately need to be answered.
Does which glue smells best, do you think?
We'll have to ask her. I'm
Yes.
not sure.
Yes, she's the resident expert on glue sniffing.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see how. I do see how it doesn't, but I don't see a reason why it wouldn't at this point come to somebody who's outside of Congress and is presumably law enforcement, either gaining entry or barring entry. Otherwise, I mean, they can do it where they keep kind of just, all right, well, I'm going to walk in this door now, and the Democrats say, don't do that. But at some point, one of them is going to have to get serious about it. I seem to think that will be, I think the Republicans have more right to do that first, but I think the Democrats are stupid enough to do that first. They both know that whoever does it first is not going to look good.
There's another counterpunch that we're not considering is also involved here. The DOJ's investigation into, the
Yes.
Trump dossier, Clinton, all that stuff. That's another thing that's going to. It's actual real crimes that whether they get prosecuted or not, that it will probably way outweigh this lack of evidence with the impeachment hearings. I think that the impeachment hearings also might be a strategy because they know that information is coming. If they can keep this information in the news cycle, they can bury that.
Yeah, little preview for Saturday. That's a story I put on the list. I'll be working on that. But the Attorney General Barr was looking into the origins of the Russia probe of Mueller's investigation, and that has this week went from a inquiry into the investigation into where the investigation started at to a criminal investigation as to where it started. So that had its status updated this week, which is pretty big news that we'll be covering on Saturday. But yeah, that could likely result in a lot of the big names from the intelligence community, like I'm forgetting all their names now, but people that are involved in this thing, that they could be getting swept up in actual criminal proceedings, which might actually be interesting because if they could be trying to do an impeachment. They could be trying to do the impeachment process, and then half of the witnesses get nailed and go to jail for the Russia probe. That'd be interesting.
Yes, it would be.
I wonder how quickly you could do a recall. Like I wonder if like Schiff's district did a recall, how quickly they could get that done and just like yank him out of the process midstream. That'd be funny.
He's basically guaranteed to be implicated because of how involved he was in the Trump dossier. So that would be really interesting if he, after all this impeachment hearings, he ends up going to jail for it, or gets fined, most likely.
Yeah, we should do some research on his district someday and see what his
Moab we could drop.
Like. What?
Nothing. Not really. Only in Minecraft. So everyone really, I hope, sees some of these videos that we've shared. Pays attention to the process because if you want to, I think that's the only way we can fight the corruption is for people to be aware of it. Honestly.
Yep.
But the mainstream media is not covering this. You've already gone over the titles or their headlines they're going over. They're just attacking the Republicans for complaining about the process without explaining why the process is bad. I went through a lot of stories trying to find information for our reporting today, and it's really hard to find a lot of the information we covered.
Yeah, my job just sniffing out headlines was a lot easier.
Yeah.
They're like I said earlier, the media is just eating us all up and are as excited about it as Schiff is, and Schiff is dribbling out little leaks here and there, trying to spin his narrative, and he knows that the media will pick that up and run with it as fast as they can. And again, this doesn't work for the Democrats if the media is not complicit in it. And that's and for some reason CNN has a problem with Cheez-Its. I don't know why they said that like it was a bad thing. Who doesn't like Cheez-Its?
So I've gotten to the point where stuff that the Babylon Bee and the Onion Post end up happening non-ironically, right?
Yeah.
And CNN is becoming more and more, or is posting articles more similar to them every day. At some point, is the Babylon Bee satire or just telling the future? Is it future news?
Yeah.
I think they should stop. They should stop calling themselves a parody newspaper.
Well, I mean, they put as much work into their articles as like most of the other mainstream media does. I mean, they're just making it up. They at least go through the effort to make sure that they're funny. I mean, but they put in the same amount of like research effort.
I wonder if the writers for the Babylon Bee, when they see the mainstream media like take their article as a challenge and then do it seriously, do they like just groan like, I gotta try even harder, I gotta be even more ridiculous, I'm running out of ideas. I'm at peak ridiculous now.
Yeah, I don't know where to go from here.
Eventually it's going to force all parody newspapers out of business. Maybe that's the strategy. They're just trying to subvert them.
Yes, that's their goal.
That's a really bad long range plan. But I support it, I guess. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I think I had a fun time.
I had a
We'll see you guys on Saturday for the rest of the weekly news recap. And we'll probably, in the coming weeks, have more information about this, unfortunately. So this story is not going to go away until Trump gets reelected for his fourth time.
By his fourth term, he'll make it illegal.
Yes, exactly. He'll be a tyrant then, and he'll just make it the new mainstream media illegal.
Yes.
There'll only be the Trump News Network. Anyways, thank you guys. See you on Saturday. Direwolf out.
He's signing off. Thank you guys.